Welcome, everybody, to Week 11 in the Fantasy and Frames pregame show. I'm your host, Jorge Edwards, and around Frames here, we got basically all the directors here at Fantasy and Frames to help get you ready for your matchups here in Week 11, both from a weekly matchup to a DFS matchup. We got you covered here. Let's start with the guy who's farthest away and is enjoying life in Sin City, Las Vegas. Keith Fleming, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. I got back late last night, so I'm in Georgia. But if you guys have ever heard of the saying "drowning on dry land," that's basically how I feel about the last 4 days. But Vegas is always a blast. Didn't really win any money. It's a lot more fun when you do. But excited to be back, do some DFS, and get ready for Turkey Week next week, where we'll do 2 shows. Nice,
and we'll talk more about that later. We'll be promoting that as we get closer to Tuesday and then the rest of the week. Nate Markham, sir, how are you, man?
Good. As Keith alluded to, Thanksgiving week is upon me, unfortunately. Fortunately. I'm very thankful for all the friends and family that I have. It's a lot. But I'll try to do my best to ignore my family as much as lovingly possible, to watch as many of the games as I can. And I'll do so in a home that has less than stellar Wi-Fi. So, Keith, if that hotspot that you have can be shipped somehow immediately, that'd be helpful. So go ahead and put that on Amazon.
Where
Prime,
are you going?
To my in-laws' house.
Mountains, I guess.
No, it's not even. It's crazy. It doesn't even make sense. It just, for some reason, it's like they I don't know. It's like they have a great, hey, how do we get our family to talk to each other more? I know. Make sure that we'll just put lead in the ceiling or whatever it is and make sure Wi-Fi doesn't get through. And it's wonderful because you do spend more time talking, which to all people out there looking for a way to connect more, eliminate Wi-Fi, and you have no choice.
Take out some cell towers while you're at it, though.
You hear that, AT&T?
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that. I get the wanting to be there and hang out and stuff, but it's like going to some coffee shops around here where it's like we don't have Wi-Fi, so talk to each other like you used to. And I'm like, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, I don't know these people. Oh my God.
We got Gator J joining the show. What's up, Gator J? Long time. Actually, we saw you on Wednesday. What am I saying? A long time.
Yeah.
Before that, it was a long time. So welcome. And we got Tyler Heil here. Tyler, how are things going with you, man?
Oh, they're great, man. Been very busy this week, but it's been a lot of fun. Had a Friendsgiving yesterday, so started off the Thanksgiving early also. And, Orlando, Florida, we have a very large Brazilian population. Ooh, I introduced a lot of Brazilian friends to fried turkey yesterday, and they loved it. So I'm pretty proud of that.
That's awesome. I've never done fried turkey. It's on the top of the list. I got to be honest with you.
You have to.
And so as we do weekly every week here, we go over every single game, talking about the fantasy relevant players. We talk about cool DFS matchups to look into here, as well as answer all of your start and sit questions. And we go until around noon or when we wrap up. So get those start and sit questions, firing away. We'll be sure to answer them. We got David Ibrahim from Connect Go joining us in a little bit. So we will be getting the Frames crew and family together to help you out. So let's go to the first game in this that we'll be talking about today. The Chicago Bears and the Atlanta Falcons. Khalil Herbert went on IR. That sucks. Tyler, you weren't on the show last week. We were waxing poetic about Khalil Herbert, wishing that he was still around, but alas, he's not.
Yes. I would have joined you.
So by default, David Montgomery is somebody who I think I'm pretty high on this week as a good, solid RB2 play. Just for the volume, yes, Justin Fields is running all over the field. See what I did there? But wow, that was not my best work, folks. I'm sorry.
Try harder.
Yeah, I have to. I don't have enough coffee in me. I'm sorry.
I am not thankful for that. Now's a wish your Wi-Fi would go out.
True. But David Montgomery should see plenty of work, plenty of goal line work. So he is their RB1, and so hopefully, and it's crazy. This is going to be like the third year in a row, I think, where David Montgomery is basically having sole possession of a backfield down the stretch, heading towards the fantasy playoffs and into the fantasy playoffs. So, some of you may have drafted him and just haven't been able to either insert him into your starting lineup, or you are too scared to drop him for obvious reasons because of situations like this. Well, now is where you have to kind of do he's in my lineup by default. Or maybe he's a flex play this week. Or maybe he's a DFS play this week. Let's start with some DFS. Let's talk about some money. David Montgomery, what are your thoughts on him?
I like him. I don't love him this week just because of his price. He's, I think, 6,100. There's a lot of good backs in that price range that I think I would rather spend more money on. The guy for DFS is Ebner. If he ends up getting the same amount of snaps that Herbert did, I mean, my Falcons defense is a treasure trove to any fantasy player. He's 4,200. So in bigger lineups, I kind of like that play. I think it's going to be against the grain, low owned. And I mean, I'm terrified how the Falcons are going to stop Justin Fields. Say the Bears get up, big. They try to run the game out. Maybe it's not all Montgomery in that situation, them to get some more carries. But I don't necessarily love Montgomery just because of his price range. But Fields for sure, Mooney, Kmet, Hebner, anybody else versus the Falcons that's relatively cheap other than Fields. But right now I'm playing Fields 550 yards and I think it's 5 rushing touchdowns the last 5 weeks. So he's automatic. And then on the Falcons side, I like Patterson in a game that I think will be high scoring.
Nate, let's talk about some IDP real quick here. Gator Jay's got a question. Is Sanborn somebody linebacker for the Bears? I mean, he should be starting versus Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, he's proven that in 2 weeks now. In that, if you look overall, he's LB1, LB2 during that time as a starter. Atlanta, as Keith has said, or we've all seen, run heavy team, and it seems like Sanborn has been in good position to do so. And honestly, one thing I want to see is the blitz package as well with him, because he's shown that Sanborn is that gritty, kind of finds the hole. He's solid tackler. I like him I think I have him. Let's see. I think he's my LB 18. So yeah, I mean, that for me is a must start, obviously, if I have him that high. Yeah, 19. I apologize.
Yeah, I have him at because that's the number. I have him just in LB2 territory at 24. I could definitely see him out producing that this week. What really is cool about that in his performance this week, the past 2 weeks, is his solo tackle numbers. Forget his total tackle numbers, but his solo tackle numbers have been phenomenal. So yeah, definitely good call there, Nate.
16 of 19 solo.
Yeah, just fantastic. Got a question here from DonCat91. 3-year keeper auction league, traded Pollard for Kadarius Toney, Njoku, and you got
he traded Pollard and Toney.
Oh, words
for
right.
Njoku and Cup.
Right. Okay. Well, seeing as how we don't know where Pollard is playing next year. I mean, this is his last year, I believe, before his contract is up and they have to re-sign him or he goes somewhere else. This is tough. Do you hitch your wagon to Patrick Mahomes and a wide receiver who potentially could have longevity, or do you attach it to one of the best wide receivers in all of football with the quarterback situation that probably does not have a lot of longevity? From a talent perspective, I like what you had, to be honest with you, but maybe somebody else can make the argument that Njoku and Cup is the better way to go. What are your thoughts here, Tyler?
Oh man. So obviously he's looking at next year. He wants to win next year. Man, I mean, Cup and Njoku have good prospects for next year. Cup will come back healthy. It's not like he tore an ACL or blew an Achilles out or something like that.
Here's a little more information for you, Tyler, too.
I'll be able to roster Jefferson, Cup, and Hopkins for. Okay, I mean that's a hell of a wide receiver core So, if you're going to do that and have David Njoku, who's going to be a top 5 tight end next year because of the Browns' limited ability to acquire weapons here, yeah, I like both sides of it, but that Cup and Njoku might actually have a higher ceiling. I don't know. It's tough.
For 3 years, definitely, right?
I mean, yeah. If after the 3-year window, Tony obviously his Cup probably has 3 years. I mean,
right?
Maybe.
Maybe it's fair. It really is. And then you have to assume how many more years of Stafford there, and without, like we've talked about, money and draft picks, who takes the helm for the Rams? Granted, 3 years can change a lot. We know that, but I agree with you guys.
Let's stay here.
Yep.
If I had to start Chase Claypool or Darnell Mooney as my receiving options, let's go around the frames here. Who would you pick? Just say a name, Mooney or Claypool this week versus the Falcons, whose secondary has been decimated in recent weeks due to injury. Let's start with you, Tyler. Claypool or Darnell Mooney?
Oh, God. Just give me the deep shot on Mooney.
There we go. He's got like a 25, almost 30% target share last 5 games. I mean, Mooney has become kind of what I thought he was going to be before the season the last few weeks. Claypool has helped. Obviously, the offense has looked better. I think just having that threat. But Mooney is by far the number 1 targeted guy in the offense. So I'm going to take him. Whoever's getting the most targets versus the Falcons is a good thing.
Yeah. Right. Which might not be many because, let's be honest, Fields, I mean, he's 28 attempts, in week 9 was the season high for him. So, I mean, it's not like he's throwing it 45 times, but like you said, 30% of the targets is, there's 9 targets. And if they're quality targets, because they will be against Atlanta, no offense, Keith.
I'm taking.
6-7 catches for 80, 90 yards. I mean, yeah, I don't see Claypool even sniffing that type of production.
I do think the Bears are going to struggle a little bit running the ball. Like not having Herbert. The Falcons give up a lot of, leeway at the line of scrimmage, but we're actually a really good tackling team. And I think Herbert would have been the running back far more suited to break a big one. Obviously, I worry about Fields doing that. But if Montgomery gets 20, 30 touches, I think we can really maintain him to where he'll get 3-4 yards every carry, and that's about it, which may make him pass a little bit more. Fields doesn't have a field day running the ball.
Let's switch to the defensive side of the ball. We talked about Jack Sanborn a little bit. Michael Walker for the Falcons, Rashaan Evans for the Falcons. I like, and Nate, you wrote about him, and I wrote about him this week. Richie Grant, really liking what we're seeing the past few weeks from him.
Yep.
Solid tackle upside here. For Chicago, Jaquan Brisker, I feel is a good talent. I feel like he's a good player, good for fantasy. Not great for fantasy, but good for fantasy.
Yeah.
Somebody that you could insert into your DB spot. Definitely somebody that if you had somebody on a bye that was your DB1, then yeah, I'd definitely throw in Brisker and not really think twice about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's about it, really. Brisker, Morrow, and Sanborn about the only 3 that I really, like. I don't really care for any of the defensive end matchups, and Mariota has been, smart with the ball at least. Not accurate, but smart, I guess. If that's
has he?
Yeah, I mean,
did you see that throw off his ass last week?
Okay, yeah, unfortunately I did because I was really pumped. Because it was Miles Hartsfield that intercepted it and returned it. And I had Miles Hartsfield as one of my big starts of the week not for that apparent reason. Forecasting an ass throw that ends in the hands is not exactly. If I didn't call that one.
Mixon 5 touchdowns, and you said Matt Ryan was going to play last week. You're on fire, man.
Yeah, well, let's see what we can do this week.
I wonder if PFF graded that pass as a turnover-worthy play, or if they actually counted it as like a normal passing attempt.
It was down by contact, so it would have been
neither.
Unfortunately.
Gator J says, "Thanks, guys, for all the info you share. It makes me enjoy IDP side of the thing."
No.
Great, thank you. Glad that we're able to do that. Glad you're enjoying it.
I'd have a coffee with Gator J and without Wi-Fi, make us talk. I'd do that.
Absolutely. Let's go to the Motor City, because that's where these two teams are playing this week, Cleveland and Buffalo. I don't know if you've seen a lot of on Instagram or whatever, or the reels of players posting what the snow has been like at their houses, but some people would open the door, the snow would be 3/4 of the way up their door, and they just will pack the snow with beer cans just to keep them cold. It is ridiculous up there. And it should be pretty ridiculous for the Buffalo Bills from an offensive standpoint. I'm liking everybody in this matchup, to be honest with you. There's nobody that I'm really kind of scared of. The only thing I'd be scared of is, Josh Allen deciding to lean into a tackle with his bad, elbow and try and give a block to somebody like a Singletary or somebody. I'm pretty high on all these Buffalo Bills players this week. Keith, DFS, who are you out of all these players for Buffalo going to be all right, this is a play you want to go with that maybe not be too expensive? Or do you pay up for these players?
Well, Diggs would be the guy from Buffalo that right now I'm starting just about every week at his price range. I think he's 8,200 this week. He's kind of stayed at that 8,000 range, and he's only had one game that he hadn't scored 20-plus points in the last 7. Allen, obviously, if his elbow's messed up, it didn't look like it to me last week with him throwing some of the ropes he was and running into defenders with his throwing shoulder. So I do believe that you can trust the Buffalo offense. It's the Lions too. So, or excuse me, not the Lions, but they're playing in Detroit in the Dome, which is obviously huge. And I think Gabe Davis, also Cleveland's given up some pretty big plays. And this was a big break for Buffalo, but I would definitely be willing to put any of their guys in there. Singletary obviously got 2 touchdowns first week without Allen. Maybe that means they are going to run it a little bit more traditionally in the red zone. So that would be the other place that I would look, is probably Singletary. But Diggs is in a lot of my lineups this week.
For Cleveland, Jacoby Brissett, especially in Superflex, aka or 2 quarterback leagues, has been serviceable, getting about 16, 17 points for the QB2. And to be honest with you, you probably don't have a better option if he's your quarterback 2 in Superflex leagues. So I'll just stop talking about Jacoby Brissett. Who I won't stop talking about is Amari Cooper, who always just seems to come up clutch. Him and Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think I saw a tweet earlier in the week that in the past 4 or 5 games, Donovan Peoples-Jones has had at minimum 70 yards receiving, something along those lines. Pretty impressive. I'll be more impressed when Deshaun Watson comes back and is the one throwing the ball. But that being the case, Amari Cooper definitely a start. Njoku, I saw he was questionable heading into this week. Is he going to play this week, Tyler? Do you know?
I've been looking at it all morning. I haven't seen confirmation one way or the other. It seems like he's going to play, though. But luckily, it's an early slate, and we will know.
Yeah.
I want to say the 6 games he was playing prior, he was a top 4 or 5 tight end.
He was the tight end 3 from week 3 to week 7, I believe.
Right. There we go.
So that's a boost for Brissett.
Absolutely. If we're going to the defensive side of the ball, no Gregory Rousseau again for Buffalo, but Von Miller and AJ Epineza. DeMar Hamlin, I feel like is a name that just is this guy. I look at the rankings each week, the expert consensus rankings, to see where everybody's at. And I always see him in the 20s and the late 20s. And I'm like, am I seeing something? Am I not seeing something that everybody else is seeing? Because this guy has just been playing lights out at free safety. I have no qualms with starting him in my lineup. I made sure to go grab him the second, you saw the first couple weeks of performance. Jordan Poyer is questionable as of right now. And you and Hollywood Titan on Shoot the Gap, Nate, on Wednesday, our IDP podcast, were describing how he has the mass of a baseball protruding from his elbow that wants to play this week. If he does play, are you inserting him into your defensive back spot just because he's Jordan Poyer, or are you like, this could be a booby trap here?
I mean, that's always the challenge, is that re-injury with something like that. And I mean, he wants to play, and against a Cleveland team that I do think that is pretty generous to an extent to opposing safeties, at least box safeties. There's a case to be made, but I would just as rather pivot and go with someone like Damar Hamlin, who is more as a box safety than Jordan Poyer would be, and just trust that that's what, Cleveland's game plan is going to be, is to take the ball out of Josh Allen's hands and try to control the clock. And without Tremaine Edmonds, you have a little more lean on Damar Hamlin. And I don't know. I'm probably going to fade Jordan Poyer. Even if he plays, I'll drop him down into my defensive back, probably 2 to 3 range is what I'm going to do. I might eat crow for that, but whatever. Risk aversion is always a plus. That's, and that takes me to the linebacking position. I just said Tremaine Edmonds, and with Tremaine Edmonds out in the same matchup, Terrell Bernard is the one who fills in for Tremaine Edmonds, whereas Tyrell Dodson fills in for when Matt Milano's out. And Milano being healthy, I think we'll see a lot of Terrell Bernard in this game. I think there's a lot of good upside in this matchup. I think that, again, like I said, with the run-heavy approach, I think he'll be heavily involved in this. I'm liking what I'm seeing out of limited production so far on the season. Good tackle efficiency. So let's see, anybody else? No, that's about it on that side of the ball.
Okay. One person I forgot to bring up, for fantasy purposes, has really been a disappointment this year, is Kareem Hunt. He's getting a lot of goal line work, which is fantastic. It's just not being converted. Keith, let's go back to DFS bargain place for a second. Can you make the rational case that Kareem Hunt could be somebody that you're buying low on, or is he somebody that just he hasn't done anything to warrant you investing any money in time?
Not this week versus the Bills. I think that's a pretty good defense. I know Minnesota, kind of went off on them last week, but overall Buffalo's one of the tougher defenses versus the run, receivers, tight ends, etc. I think it was a huge deal for the Bills to get this game in a dome where they're going to be able to get up early. Maybe you can make the case Hunt could, see more pass catching, because if the Bills get up big, they're forced to pass. But I just think it's going to really take away what the Browns want to do in this game. And if the Bills get up early, it's good for Njoku and Hunt and, those guys, because they're throwing a lot. But I don't trust Kareem Hunt right now. And he's still fairly expensive on DK.
All right, let's go to the place that Peyton Manning built in Indianapolis. Philadelphia coming to town. They got ran all over by the Washington Commanders on Monday Night Football. The following 2 days, they get the former defensive tackle for the Minnesota Vikings, whose name is eluding me. And then the day afterwards, they got Ndamukong Suh.
Linval
Joseph. Thank you very much, Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
Just give it to Howie Roseman, man. He goes and gets stuff done.
It's a lot of low risk signings.
It is.
Howie Roseman, the king of value.
And to do it this week against a team where it's basically Jonathan Taylor, or bust. I know Matt Ryan had a great week last week. He's one of my sits this week. I just think the defensive line presence is just going to get after him this week. You're not going to see any 25-yard scamper to get away from the pass rushes. It's Jonathan Taylor or bust. And I got to be honest with you, I'm not liking what he's going to be running into this week up front. So of course I'm kind of downgrading or fading Michael Pittman. I'm, obviously Jonathan Taylor a little bit. Not even thinking about Matt Ryan as a startable option. On the flip side, you have Hurts, you have Smith, you have AJ Brown, no Goddard. He's on IR for a little bit. So that's kind of who I'm thinking for this game. DFS purposes here. Keith, what are your thoughts here on any of these players?
I actually like a lot of Colts in this game because they're cheap priced. I think Taylor's going to have a big game. He's 7,800, which is too low on DFS. Like sometimes DraftKings gives you a good player at a low price, and you just got to run with it. And Taylor at 7,800 to me is perfect. You look, the Eagles in their last 2 games, they had 2 Washington backs score 14 points or more on DraftKings. Dameon Pierce had over 130 rushing yards against this defense 2 weeks ago. They're starting to struggle against the run, and the Colts are starting to run the ball a lot more. If you have a center as your head coach, you're going to run the ball. And the Colts got back to that last week. Taylor's last 2 starts with Ryan, 43.8 points in those 2 games. That's kind of the guy that we think he is. So he's underpriced on DK. And the great thing about Taylor is if he gets running the ball well, Matt Ryan is excellent at play action. And that is where I think he can have success today with my favorite cheap play at any position, Paris Campbell. He's 4,300. His last 3 games, 32 targets, 24 receptions, touchdown on all 3, over 200 yards receiving. Those are the last 3 starts with Matt Ryan at QB. Philly is 7th worst against slot receivers, where he is 2nd in the league in snaps from the slot. They have given up 11 touchdowns and almost 12 receptions a game to receivers in the slot. Pierre Campbell at 4,300 is probably the best value you will get at any position this week on DraftKings. And if you have him in standard leagues, I'm starting him. Again, last 3 games, 32 targets, 24 receptions, touchdown on all of them. And he's getting a defense that's really bad against receivers in the slot, where he will be most of the day. I think Campbell, Taylor, and Ryan are not bad plays, because you could stack Ryan and Campbell for under 10K. And if you want to, do the triple stack with them, if you think, say, Indy's going to have a good game, you can do it for about 17K, and it's not going to be high owned.
You basically answered Jeremy Noble's question here, asking, is Paris Campbell flex worthy with no Avonte Maddox in the slot this week? So, yes.
Yes.
I hope you guys know we just Beetlejuiced Paris Campbell. We said his name 3 times.
That's all right.
So it's over.
Dave.
I have faith.
Welcoming Dave Ibrahim from ConnectGo. What's going on, Dave?
What's happening, guys? Sorry, some technical difficulties. Got to use my phone. Yeah.
No worries. I loved how I messaged you last week if you're on the show, and he was like, "Oh, I'm in Hawaii." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, right. I forgot about that."
I actually was considering joining. It was like 4:30 or something. A little bit brutal.
Very nice. Well, welcome. IDP purposes here. Nate, let's go here. Darius Leonard, we talked about his dynasty value on Shoot the Gap. So definitely go back and listen to that episode, because that definitely is something to pay attention to going forward. For redraft, you're kind of writing him off this year. Zaire Franklin, who has just been phenomenal. He's questionable heading into this week's matchup. No update as of right now. Bobby Okereke, I think, has a pretty good matchup this week just because he's been playing lights out. His tackle numbers have been fantastic. Who else are we liking on this Colts defense here? Is McLeod somebody that we're okay on, or is he kind of had his moment in the sun and then now he's been kind of fading?
Yeah, I mean, they do play a lot of single high safety. And so with the, sense of being in the box, maybe Rodney McLeod, he's a little more boom or bust than I like to try to wrap my head around. Unfortunately, last week I thought he would be that boom in a great situation, and he plays every snap. I mean, he had 7 tackles, which was fine. Just nothing else in addition to that. He doesn't add much more than a decent solid floor, which is fine. If that's what you're looking for, I mean, he's a DB3, if you ask me, in that situation. But EJ Speed, if Zaire Franklin is out, probably gets a little more play. I think that's not terrible. And I have a hard time ever not suggesting Grover Stewart or DeForest Buckner. They're just 2 dominant interior linemen. They get push, they get pressure into the backfield, they disrupt a lot of plays, and when your hands are everywhere and disruptions everywhere, there's a good chance that opportunity falls your direction. That's what we've seen so far. So, I mean, maybe not the sexiest defensive end plays, starting a nose tackle, or at least 2 defensive interior tackles, but definitely something for the depth of play. On the Eagles side of the ball, I mean, the one thing, unfortunately, RIP, not really RIP, sorry, but RIP to Matt Pryor's playing time. Matt Pryor was our favorite whipping boy, and that was a pretty much an automatic start someone. And in that case, it would have been picking Philadelphia defensive lineman. Not quite as beneficial. I think Brandon Graham has a good matchup over the on that right-hand side against Bernard Raymond. And then TJ Edwards is always solid. I like CJ Gardner-Johnson a lot. I think he'll be up in the box, and I think he's going to do his best to try to slow down Jonathan Taylor and hope that he gets a good read on some of those play action plays that Keith was talking about, and maybe try to pick one of Matt Ryan's balls. That's terribly sounds bad, but you get what I'm saying.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. That didn't go good.
You could have worded it better. You said one of his balls,
Only one. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's Thanksgiving.
Well, let's take a left turn here and go to Jeremy's question here. Okereke or Sanborn versus
Always trying to keep it PG.
Yes.
Trying is the optimal word and not always succeeding.
Mm-hmm. I'm going Sanborn just because
me too.
What Indy, as soon as Okereke, when he had a bad week, like if he missed a tackle, granted that was when they had depth, if Zaire Franklin's playing, they were quick to even, let him ride the pine for a bit. And that scares me, is any chance that you have to get pulled, which isn't likely, but we've seen it at least. So, and I like Sanborn just more anyway. He's been the higher upside player.
Yep, totally agree there. Let's go to Foxborough. Perfect timing for you to join in here, Dave, seeing as how your favorite team.
Yeah, they're doing really good this year, Dave.
Let me ask you a question, Dave. Let's talk about the running backs. Well, I mean, it's better than being under 500. So there's that.
That's true. I know.
Dave, let's talk about the running. You talk about your running backs here for New England. Obviously, Ramondre Stevenson is kind of like taking over this running back core here. But does Damian Harris have any flex value for you going forward, or is he kind of just being slowly phased out of this offense?
Absolutely. Damian Harris is the Jamal Williams to DeAndre Swift. So Stevenson absolutely gets the middle of the field, but if you're in the red zone, it's Harris time. I mean, he's such a great goal line back. You're really relying on him just to fall in the end zone. But look, they're still giving him 10, 15 carries, and he's efficient. I don't have the stats in front of me, but what's his yards per carry? It's got to be over 4. So, I mean, it's not disappointing. It's not Najee Harris numbers. Look, you're probably getting 60 yards and a touchdown out of him. And as my flex, I'm okay with that. I mean, he was dropped in many leagues.
Pulling up your numbers right here. Hold on. Stevenson. Well, they're actually Stevenson's getting 4.8. Harris is getting 4.3. So,
I mean, it's efficient. 4.3. You're not disappointed with 4.3 yards a carry. So,
and they're only separated by 1 touchdown. So that is a very good point. No, I love that comparison. Jamal Williams to Damian Harris there. Fantastic. Somebody that I know Zach, aka FF Chalupa Batman, is not high on is Jacoby Myers this week, just because of the potential for Sauce Gardner kind of taking away some of that opportunity. As far as other options here, let's go to. Well, I'm immediately going to the Jets, and it's kind of sad here because I could say, hey, Devontae Parker, it looks like he's going to be cleared to play this week, but I don't know if a lot of people are starting Devontae Parker. And if you are starting Devontae Parker, where are you at in your season?
You have better odds of trying to win that $1 billion lottery than finding out who Belichick is going to throw to that week. I mean, it's just it's a crapshoot. Sometimes it's Myers, sometimes it's Kendrick Bourne. It's just very game stripped. I wouldn't say in New England there is a clear-cut number one, whether it be wide receiver or tight end. There's really no one other than Damian Harris and Stevenson that I'm trusting. Other than the Patriots defense, it's about it.
Isn't that crazy? Because it always used to be that you could never trust Bill Belichick when it came to running backs, and now that's kind of become the kind of like obvious play. Mm-hmm. We got a Texans fan joining the show here. We got Les Maynard. What's going on, Les?
Hey, how y'all doing? Hey, look, if there's
we're doing fine. We're doing fine. We're doing fine.
Hey, I'm about to say, if there's one W we can get this season, it's against Taylor Heineke and the Washington Commanders. Let's go.
Insert Philadelphia Eagles victory. Go ahead, Jorge. Congratulations. You got to win.
The victory doc says itself. I don't have to say any more about that.
Yeah. What did I say last week before we talked about the Eagles? I went on a little rant about, and we explained every game that the Eagles had played and talked about who they had beaten, which was a Cooper Rush-led team, Kirk Cousins in prime time. I believe there was some others. And don't get me wrong, I far from was predicting the Eagles were going to lose that game. I thought they might only, win by 8, but they were they actually not. proven or called out or in question, or was that just a hiccup? Was that you're looking at next week already?
I think they got exposed. I mean, look, I'm not saying they're a bad team, but people talking about them like they're guaranteed a path to the Super Bowl. I'm not overly impressed with what I see in Philadelphia.
They get the 1 seed, though. I think they are the favorite, like heavy favorite to win the NFC, because I don't like any team going to Philly. I think it's like, and I know this is not really an answer, but they were not as good as people were saying. They weren't an 8-0 team, but they're still, in my opinion, the class of the NFC. I mean, maybe the Niners is the one team that they don't have a good matchup against. I mean, they've already played. I know the Cowboys would rush, but I think the Cowboys have a better chance of beating the Eagles playing a more conservative style than flinging it. Yeah. I still think that the Goddard injury really hurts too. Like, I mean, that was a big part of their passing offense. And unless Devontae Smith steps up, they're going to be a little bit more one-dimensional. They've been throwing the ball great.
You think they look like the NASCAR car that finishes when every other car just blows up behind them in the big crash and they coast to the finish line? That's what they are, because the NFC's kind of garbage.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
NFC East is strong, though. Never thought I'd say that, but yeah, I mean, you've got Giants and Cowboys who are 2nd and 3rd, and what's their record? Like 7-3 or something?
Yeah,
Giants are 6-2.
You know what else is strong? Davis Mills' neck for holding that head up high, because his neck is so tall, and it's about to get clotheslined into by the Washington Commanders today. Just boom shakalaka.
I'm seeing a different side of Jorge now that he's like the favorite in a game.
Hey, let's go.
And they're a 3-point favorite against a team that's won 1 game. I mean, good Lord.
On the road. Yeah.
Calm down.
Look, hey, they got a draw in there. They got a tie in there as well. Let's show them some respect.
Palindrome team. Yeah.
Anyhow, what does Gator J have to say here? Washington just played them a few weeks ago and came in this past week with a game plan to make Hurts beat them in the air. Anywho, let's go to the Jets here. Man, that whole James Robinson trade just doesn't really mean the damn thing for the Jets here. So not really talking about anybody in the running game outside of Michael Carter, maybe in PPR leagues. Keith, DFS prospects here for the Jets or for the Patriots outside of Ramondre and Damian Harris?
I like Ramondre. I don't know if I like Damian Harris, but I love Garrett Wilson this week. He's like 4,900. First matchup, he scored 20-plus points. Corey Davis is not playing is really the big thing. When Davis has been out, Wilson has seen ridiculous targets, eight or more in each one of them. I just think at 4,800, he'll score at least 10 points. And he's a good enough receiver that he could turn that into a 20, 30-point day, depending on, if the Jets are down most of it and they're having to throw. I wouldn't give up on James Robinson yet, though. He's only had, 2 games since the trade. They had the bye week. I actually think there's a chance he comes out and sees a lot of work in this game. That they've been trying to, work him into the offense, figure out what he's going to do. Obviously, Carter's still going to be involved, but Carter's never been, the main guy. They've always had somebody that's basically equal touches. So I think Robinson actually could be a sneaky play today because he's going to be really low-owned.
I agree with you there, Keith. I mean, last game, he had 13 touches and a receiving touchdown. So, and to your same point about Michael Carter being more of a receiving back and James being more of a run through between the tackles, I wouldn't count him out either.
It's crazy
go ahead.
I was just going to say, if the Patriots win today and the Bills lose, the Bills are last in the division.
It's insane.
In that crazy thinking there.
Jorge, there was one other guy, Tyler Conklin at tight end 3,200. The Pats have given up almost a touchdown per game to opposing tight ends, and he had his biggest game of the year against the Pats just a few weeks ago. And we know Bill Belichick tries to take away whatever you do best. No offense to Tyler Conklin. They're not going to be worried about trying to take him away. So I think he could end up having a good game again, and he's dirt cheap.
IDP, Nate, who do we got in this matchup? Who are we rolling with besides Matt Judon? Maybe Kyle Duggar, who's questionable, I feel like, every single week. And on the flip side for the Jets, Quinnen Williams, Quincy Williams, CJ Mosley. Maybe Jordan Whitehead this week? What are your thoughts?
Maybe. The Jets do one thing extremely well. They get a ton of push and pressure from rushing 4. They can leave the linebackers back to stop, like Zach was saying in the article about Jacoby Myers. Myers could be just completely isolated because he might not get sauce if they have him in the slot more times than not. But even if he's in the slot, he's going to have to contend with 3 linebackers that are capable of coverage over the middle. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be a long day for New England from that. I think they're going to try to have to, run the ball. And I really like CJ Mosley to control that run game. I do like Jordan Whitehead up in the box if that's the game plan New England has, is to try to control the clock, not, take the ball out of Mac Jones's hands. He should be up in the line of scrimmage. Short of that, I mean, there's not a ton of huge upside plays. You always want to try to start Sauce Gardner because it'd be fun, but he's going to slowly, we're going to see more and more each week. He won't be targeted, and he'll just be that isolation corner, which is great for real football, bad for IDP. And New England side, the Jets offensive line is as sturdy and protected, whatever, as anybody. Yeah, whatever. I hit my old my thesaurus of they're good is not that great. You know what I mean? It sucks to say that. I hate. It's like you always try to go that superlative, that one up answer, and sometimes the best answer, the best explanation, description is to say they're good offensive line, and they will stop or slow down Matthew Judon. I don't like you said, Kyle Duggar. I don't like anybody else. New England's just not an IDP. They're kind of an IDP wasteland.
What about is it Jonathan Jones?
Yeah, but I mean, Jonathan Jones. Again, I have a hard time ever starting just a true corner, despite how he's been excellent. He's been really good. They'll want to stay away from Jonathan Jones. They'll want to try to go to Mills' side, or at least, if anything, maybe pepper over the middle, like you were saying with Conklin, and try to attack Juwan Bentley and in the middle of that field. From a player standpoint, I love Dietrich Wise. Dietrich Wise has been wonderful. Matt Judon has been wonderful in terms of pressures and get off and pass rush reliability. Everything's been great. It's just that offensive line is not one I want to gamble against.
All right, let's go to the Crescent City of New Orleans. Got the Rams coming to town, and earlier in the week in my start and sit article, I put Matt Stafford as somebody who I'm sitting this week. Just atrocious offensive line going against one of the premier pass rushers in the NFL today. Has no real receiving options to throw to. I felt this was going to be more of a running game situation. Well, now things are kind of changing. I still am not high on Matt Stafford this week. If you don't have a better option than Matt Stafford, you may have caught a break here because Cameron Jordan is missing his first game in 12 years at one side. Marcus Davenport is out this week, the other side of the Saints defensive line. So now who are you hoping? Pete Werner. We saw Caden Ellis get into the backfield again last week in replacement of Pete Werner at linebacker, but is that going to be the saving grace there? You have David Onyemata for the New Orleans Saints. But okay, so now you're giving me one defensive lineman and a blitzing linebacker. That's not exactly a recipe for success for applying a lot of pressure to Matt Stafford. Who this may be exactly what the Rams need to get back into things from a real football perspective. I'm still leery of Allen Robinson. Nate, give me a wide receiver here that you are pretty high on.
I mean, I think that
relatively high on, I should say.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I think it's kind of we're seeing the same. Ben Skoranek has been that easy kind of pivot move where you assume. What was that, week 6 in the slot? He had a good game. He was heavily targeted at least. And that should be the second most reliable. Maybe there's 3 people to focus on outside. It's Robinson and Skoranek and then Tyler Higbee. But, I mean, man, what do we think the upside is for Skoranek? Maybe 7-8 targets, which I would love to have. Don't get me wrong.
Isn't it crazy that Van Jefferson has been basically producing nothing for this offense? And I kind of was hoping
that is Tutu Atwell even healthy?
I have no idea. To be honest with you,
That's fair.
Les, let's go to you, man. Let's hear about. Let's get your analysis here. On the flip side, let's talk about New Orleans. Who are we liking from the Saints this week? Who are we comfortable rolling out there with? And let's start with that.
I'm more concerned about what are you guys doing with Chris Olave?
Less.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, that's cool. That's cool. I was gonna say back to the Rams real quick. I feel like whatever Rams receiver pops off this week will be the most added receiver, and the other two will be the most dropped. I think we're all in a wait and see, what's going to happen, in the wake of Cooper Kupp's injury and all that. So looking forward to that. As far as the Saints, I'm really liking Juwan Johnson. He doesn't get a lot of volume, but he keeps producing. And I think the fantasy community is seeing that, starting to pick him up more and rostering him.
Nice. I got a question here on the YouTube from Blurpy. Olave or Kadarius Toney this week at flex, man. I mean, Toney has all the opportunity in the world on Sunday Night Football. Olave seems to be quarterback proof when it comes to targets and whatnot. The question is, who's guarding Toney versus who's guarding Olave? I feel like this leans towards kind of, a little bit of uncertainty with Toney. But am I losing my mind here? Should I stick with Olave, or is Toney the play this week at flex?
I don't like Olave with the red rifle under center. I liked him with Winston. I think he's got a better chance. He's getting the targets. He's just getting double covered, and I don't know. He started off the season real well. I hate to say it, I'm kind of leaning Toney. I'm actually going to that game today in LA, the Chiefs Chargers game. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, nice.
Be fun. But
send some pictures.
Yeah, we'll do. Look, I think, like you said, Toney's got the opportunity. Much better quarterback play. He's good for 6 or 7 targets. So I'd roll the dice with Toney.
All right, let's go here. I think we answered this one. Well, let's just answer it again. With less of a pass rush, is Higbee viable? Yes, Higbee is viable at a tight end position. Johnny T80, welcome back to the show. Keith, Kamara, a good DFS play this week?
I don't think so, only because of his price. Let me double check it real quick, though. I don't want to say something. So, yeah, he's 7,600. I think that there's other plays that you can get that are cheaper, that are just as likely to go out and are actually a better matchup. Like I like Ramondre Stevenson versus the Jets. I talked about Jonathan Taylor's only $200 more versus Philly. I think that's a better play this week. And then what I really like is there's a lot of cheaper plays you can play, like Kenyon Drake, now with Edwards ruled out versus Carolina. You got either Washington back. I really like Robinson Jr. better, but anybody can go against Houston. But I mean, if you have a feeling that Kamara's going to have a good game, it's never a bad play. I don't want to ever say that, but I think there's other plays that are better at back this week.
All right, let's go to New York and talk about the Detroit Lions versus the New York Giants. Les, let's go back to you. Amon-Ra St. Brown, what's our confidence level, and he can produce some good, low-end wide receiver 1 numbers, or is he like a bona fide wide receiver 1 against this Giants team who's been kind of struggling a little bit defensively?
That's a tough call for me because I don't think the Giants' defense is really that bad. To answer your question, I'd say low-end wide receiver 1. That's my gut. He's been kind of inconsistent this year, so I'd go low-end. Wide receiver even.
Okay. You bring up a good point about the Giants defense kind of picking it up a little bit. Nate, let's quickly switch to the IDP side of the Giants here. Mm-hmm. Julian Love last week. You hit the nail on the head. He did not crowd the line of scrimmage. He was playing more in safety. Dane Belton played more closer to the line of scrimmage. Although a lot of his fantasy output came from picking off whoever they were playing last week, getting an interception last week.
Correct.
If you had to roll with one of these safeties, who would you be rolling with?
I'd still go with Dane Belton. I just don't. I don't like a free safety role of a person who doesn't specifically play that position, and that's the concern that I had with both of those two. Is Wink Martindale had to decide which safety was best suited to play in an out of position role, and he felt that it was Julian Love, and Julian Love is, neither one of them are great free safeties. And so that, to me, diminishes a lot of that potential ceiling if they're not ball hawks and they don't have that read and react skill. So I'll take Dane Belton up, more in the box and more exposure to opportunity if you're asking me to choose between those two.
Okay. Let's go back to Tyler here for the Giants, which, by the way, I don't know if you all saw the sleeper notification or the Twitter notification right now that Odell Beckham Jr. is visiting after Thanksgiving the Cowboys and the Giants. Wouldn't it be crazy if we went back to New York? I mean, that would be something. I don't think the world is ready for that. I think well, I'll forget that reference, but yeah, it's something. Darius Slayton, I want to say the past 3 weeks has been averaging 17 close to 17 fantasy points per game. And granted, a lot of it is coming off of big play opportunities, but nevertheless, Daniel Jones is looking his way. He's finding him for big plays. Is he somebody that is potentially flex worthy for you versus this Lions secondary that's just kind of a sieve for receiving yards?
Absolutely. I mean, I know it's been based off big plays, but that's kind of who Darius Slayton is. That's where he's made his hay in the past, that when he had that one relevant half season, and they're realizing he's one of their only talented pass catchers. So I think I have him ranked right around a back end wide receiver 3 this week. So yeah, I'd be comfortable flexing Slayton.
Yeah, I'm on board the Daniel Jones train this week. He's one of my sits at quarterback. Jared Goff, not so much. We talk about, obviously Saquon Barkley. As far as other IDP players for this matchup, Deshaun Elliott has been playing really well for the Lions, although I believe he missed part of last week's game due to injury, questionable heading into this week. There's somebody now in the secondary, though, who's playing at free safety that, Nate, you wrote about in your waiver wire article. I think it's been back-to-back weeks in your waiver wire articles that people need to start paying attention potentially to. Can you talk about Kirby a little bit?
Oh, yeah. Kirby Joseph's been solid, playing alongside Deshaun Elliott, I think is always a boon in terms of keeping focus away from Elliott's side. I think offenses want to try to stay away from him. He's definitely more of the playmaker, but Kirby Joseph has that in him as well. At least that's what I saw. He was with Illinois and was ball hawk there, had big hitter. So he's capable of playing up in the box, capable of playing back, kind of like I said, the opposite of what the Giants have. They have the Lions really have 2 players that I think can play both, up and down. And he just seems to come through with big plays each week. And that's, if I'm going to go for an upside pick, especially as like a DB 2 or 3, that's the type of player I want. A guy who has that top 5 upside in him.
All right.
Just quickly with OBJ, I think it's more likely than not he goes to New York. I think he finishes his career at the place he started. It's not the same team when they left. I mean, who was the coach at the time? Was it Coughlin?
No, it was the quarterback. He was the offensive coordinator for the
Garrett.
No, before him, McAdoo. It was Ben McAdoo.
Yeah, Ben McAdoo. I don't think the same drama is there. I think he's grown a lot, and really he's got the opportunity to become a number 1. I mean, who's he really competing with? Wan'Dale Robinson. Whereas you go to Dallas and you've got CeeDee Lamb. OBJ is going to be the clear-cut number 2 best case scenario. So don't be surprised if the Giants pick him up. Sorry.
Nice. For defensive line, just one more person for IDP. I like Aiden Hutchinson this week. I think his matchup with Tyree Phillips is going to be very advantageous for him. So definitely somebody who I anticipate getting you a sack and getting you some tackles and bumping him up that defensive line ranking there.
I'll tell you a name to pay attention to. Like as far as limited snaps and production, Julian Arquara is not getting the notoriety as far as what he's doing from a pressure and a win rate percentage. He's quietly a name that might be sneaking up because honestly, on that opposite side of Hutchinson, they don't have much, and so I really like this chance to see what we can get out of Aquara moving forward.
Sounds like a plan. Let's go to Baltimore. I got Carolina coming to town versus the Ravens. As of right now, and the only information I have is that it's looking like Gus Edwards is leaning towards not being activated for this match, or maybe he's active, he's just not playing. Not expected to play. If that happens, this is going to be a huge, I believe, Kenyon Drake opportunity game for him this week. So I'm very high on Kenyon Drake this week. Mark Andrews looks to be coming back. You know, it's crazy. I always get weary when I have to read more than 9 words in a tweet telling me that a player is going to potentially be active. Like, if this, and then of course that, and if possibly this, and then if that, if. But it looks like Mark Andrews is going to play. That's what Adam Schefter's tweet was basically like this morning. So if I'm playing in a league with multiple flex spots or multiple tight end spots, I don't know. I don't know if I would write off Isaiah Likely. I definitely wouldn't drop him from your roster. First of all, if you do have him currently and you're thinking about picking up players, I would hold on to him. Just I want to see Mark Andrews and how he performs today. But you know, that's Lamar Jackson, obviously Kenyon Drake. Are there any receiving options here? Is Duvernay somebody that we're still having a little bit of faith in, or a lot of faith in, Tyler?
I mean, if Andrews is their tight end 1, Likely might be their wide receiver 1. I mean, I think those are the top 2 receiving options on the team at this point. Likely has showed he's far more capable than Devin Duvernay or James Prochet or whatever, jag they have on their team.
Yeah.
Don't forget that Duvernay scored 3 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks.
That sounds like
so he's definitely someone that Lamar looks for in the red zone.
Yes, I mean, he's not a 0, but Likely has shown he's far more capable. I mean, Duvernay's disappeared multiple times. That's my issue with him.
Tyler, I got a question for you. I think I know your ranking, but I'm gonna throw some out for you. Duvernay, Slayton, Nico Collins.
Oh God. Just to take a shot, I'll go Slayton, Duvernay, Nico Collins, just because I'm betting on Lamar over Davis Mills.
I don't mind the disrespect. You're keeping it 100, man. It's cool.
I'll throw the disrespect. I'll throw the
hey, Nico Collins is still. It's weird, but he's still somehow the wide receiver 2 on that team. I don't know what's going on. That team's kind of a dumpster fire. Sorry, Les.
There you go.
And no disrespect, but here's some extra manure on that.
But disrespect.
I said with all due respect.
You can't just say what you want by saying with the.
I sure as hell can. Here's a question, Jorge. I don't think we got to this by Johnny.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Great stuff as always. PPR league Foreman, whether it's a PPR or standard or non, I just think he's been playing so well, getting you the yardage, being efficient with the ball. Jamal Williams, I understand he's also been playing well, but DeAndre Swift is back for another week in a row. Maybe Swift starts eating into more of this opportunity, whereas I don't see anybody coming to take this job away from Foreman.
No, and they're giving him the rock as well. I mean, he's eating like he's at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Well, they gave him 31 carries last week. Yeah, it was so I mean, they're obviously confident in him. He's doing a great job. He's getting 118 plus yards every single game, except for the one, which is a blowout. I'll give him a pass there. But Foreman's been on fire.
I do want to disagree just because of the matchups.
2 games against the Falcons.
Thank you. And on top of that, the Lions are playing the Giants. The Giants have not played a game yet that hasn't been a 1-score game, which is going to mean the Lions are going to be able to run the ball. And I just think Jamal Williams gets more touches than Foreman because I think the Ravens are going to run it down Carolina's throat, get up early, and that's not a great, game for Foreman to go off on, to where Williams and what's probably going to be a close game versus the Giants. I just think he's going to end up getting more opportunities. And, I mean, Giants have given up some rushing yards as well.
Since this seems like a good opportunity to go ahead and pimp your team. You mentioned every game has been won by one score or less. The Jacksonville Jaguars prior to last week had lost every game by less than 7 points until last week.
Oh,
What do I do with my hands? What do I do with my hands?
Wow, are we switching from the other guys' references to Talladega Nights on the
It's
pregame?
pretty
show?
much Will Ferrell-a-thon around here.
Yeah, we love our Will Ferrell movies to reference on our show.
Where's Hollywood at this morning is what I want to
crying, probably.
Crying like a baby, crying like a little insert
I'm
word.
so disappointed in Tennessee. I thought they were big boys and we get to see them again, but
SEC's overrated.
Oh, come on.
Hey, you guys didn't believe me at the start of the season when I said the Packers would be last in their division. I'm pretty sure they're dead last, right? I mean, can we see them actually doing anything with the season?
No, I don't.
Are they behind the lines now?
No.
I think so.
I don't pay attention to.
Yeah. I don't pay attention to standings. I
don't pay attention. I just win Super Bowls,
Unless Joe Burrow
cash
plays
checks, and
me.
breaks necks. Yes, that's true. Unless Joe Burrow plays.
Or plays Tom Brady, or I got you.
Yes, I know. We've been in the playoffs a lot. Jeez, we have a lot of examples. Good Lord. Sorry.
We got Rachel joining us here on YouTube. Welcome back to the show this week. Mike Williams, big play. Darius Slayton, big play. If Mike Williams is active, which I think he was questionable about, these people were saying that he's trending towards playing.
Yeah.
Big matchup versus the Chiefs. Really, so now it's for me. It's okay. Herbert, Daniels. I'm going Herbert. Therefore, I'm going Mike Williams here. Les, what are your thoughts here?
hey, like you said, welcome back, Rachel. Welcome back, Mike Williams. That's easy for me. If he's on the field, I like him over Slayton. No questions asked.
Who's the other options is my question, because I never like to throw away a good matchup like Darius Slayton, who scored, I think, 10 points or more in 3 straight. If there's a chance Williams doesn't play. If I have a backup for, the same game, because it's a Sunday night game, right? It's Chiefs, Chargers.
Yes.
I hate putting, all my eggs in a basket of somebody who, they can come up with that last minute. He didn't feel right, whatever, and he's going to say out another game.
I agree.
Yeah. If you want to fill us in on who your receivers are, that would be fantastic, and that'll help give us more confirmation as far as recommendations.
Williams is definitely the better play, but that scares me going into Sunday night with potentially no receiver.
Now, and the one thing the reason why I'm not as high on Slayton, when we look at the stats, he had double-digit stats in the last couple games. When he played the Texans, I watched that game. The majority of his production came off a broken tackle from Jalen Petrie for the 60-yard touchdown on the sideline. If you took that away, I think he might have had 4 or 5 fantasy points in half PPR. So just a little context there. That was like the worst tackling performance I'd ever seen in my life, and he broke it out for 60.
He scored 11 points or more though in 4 of his last 5.
Yeah, he's been top 36 in 4 of the last 5. I think
I got to run with a guy that knows playing.
My biggest thing with him is the 24% target per route run,
Right.
which you mix that and 24% target share last week, trending up. I don't disagree with you, Les. You hate to bank on the big plays and the missed tackles, but luckily he's playing Detroit, which isn't the best tackling team in football, if there's a positive to be had.
Touche.
But Mike Williams against the Chiefs. Sorry, Jorge.
I would get as much info as I can on
me.
Williams before
It
one.
scares me.
But if it's not like he's going to play, I would probably shift.
Is Keenan playing? Keenan Allen?
Again, same
as well.
Yeah, I know. Terrifying.
Fucking They've done this though, like the last month, where it's like if you have their receivers, you think they're going to play, then last minute they're like, nope, they're not playing.
Yeah.
Carolina, DJ Moore. Yeah, what do we think about DJ Moore, Nate?
So, here's the thing. Baltimore for 7 weeks has been the attack every wide receiver against their defense. Remember those weeks? Those were fun weeks.
The first 3 for DFS were a blast.
And you know what's happened the last 3 to 4 weeks? They've been second best team in football against the wide receiver. And I don't know. I mean, I know why that is. They're getting healthy again, but they're getting pass rush. Justin Houston has been a revelation, and I think that I still want. I don't know why you directed that towards me. I know why, because I got my DJ Moore tattoo on my chest, basically. But I'm thinking about getting it covered up with with something
Robbie
else.
Anderson.
Robbie Anderson.
Oh no, that's my tramp stamp. I got that on for Dave. Ready to go.
For IDP, can we go around real quickly for this game?
Yeah. As I said, it's like Justin Houston has been just phenomenal. And what's crazy is, for a guy in his 30s, which sounds weird to say it like that, but he has, in metrics wise, he's one of the few in the league that is elite in everything. I mean, he's getting amazing pass rush. He's doing it without being just the most dynamic, deep off like physical threat, but he's getting it all done. Man, linebacker, Roquan's going to be a must start now. There's no question about that in my mind. Safety, I don't like. I used to love Geno Stone, and I am worried that he's starting to see a little less uptick in upside. Chuck Clark's down the box, and then from the Carolina side, Brian Burns is you're not going to not start Brian Burns, right?
Right.
But Frankie Louvu, on the other hand, that could be a very interesting play, especially with the amount of times he's been used in the blitz. And keep an eye out and let's watch. This is the one thing I want to pay attention to this game. I want to see utilization of Jeremy Chinn versus Xavier Woods. I want to see if Jeremy Chinn is back in the box, if he's seeing a ton of line of scrimmage snaps, or what they were doing in the preseason, early in the season when Chinn was healthy. Xavier Woods, Jeremy Chinn, kind of rotating back and forth. Let's pay attention to that and see what happens, because if he gets the box snaps, Jeremy Chinn, that is, he is a DB1 upside for the rest of the year for me.
All right, let's go to the matchup of the day here, the best football game of the day, the most exciting football game of the day. Washington, Houston, in Houston. There you go.
It's a 1 o'clock game.
It's prime time, right?
Yeah,
1
o'clock.
Being flexed,
sleep through it.
It's being flexed in our hearts to the Sunday night game, even though it's not being flexed in real life, which is a shame. 5-5 Commanders versus a 1-7-1 Houston Texans. Let's start with defense. I love defense. I don't like the fact that Washington is playing with, and this is from a real perspective. Chase Young. Washington is not. Their coaches are not very good, and I've been hearing this on all the sports talk radio locally.
Mm-hmm.
They are not good with telling you the truth. Chase Young, he's going to be activated, but he's not. But he's close. Well, what does that mean? He's not far away. I'm like, so he's close, yes. But what does that actually mean in terms of what he's going to be playing? He's taking up a roster spot, yet they're not using him. Fortunately, they haven't had any injury issues on a widespread nature to make them regret giving him an active roster spot. But they have until Tuesday to finally activate him, or he's on IR and he's gone for the year. So it's very tricky what's happening there. Somebody that I love for this matchup is Jonathan Allen. I think the offensive lines are king towards the other side with Montez Sweat and Deron Payne. And Jonathan Allen has been winning his one-on-one matchups very well over the course of the season, has been applying the most pressures the past month as far as defensive linemen as a whole group for Washington. On the flip side, look, Les, I got to give it to Jerry Hughes. He's been one of the great additions they got there from Buffalo. He's leading the team in sacks. He's leading the team in pressures. When given the great matchup, which he's going to have against this Washington offensive line, both of these guys are my IDP defensive line starts of the week. I'm so confident in this. Jalen Petrie, another player for IDP, playing close to the line of scrimmage, getting those tackles, getting those box snaps. Love it. Cameron Curl on the other side of the ball. Jamin Davis, I wrote about for the past few weeks. He's been coming more and more consistent here. On the flip side, for Houston, you have Kirksey, you have Christian Harris. You notice me talking a lot about the defense here, and that's because I'm thinking you're going to see a lot of defensive play in this matchup. I don't think these offenses are built to have long, sustained scoring drives. The rookie Stingley is out. Thank you. one area of the field that Washington has been susceptible at, which I'm surprised Philadelphia didn't take advantage of last week, is the secondary. In fact, they did on that one home run ball that Derek Forrest punched out, and that's how they got the fumble. But they haven't been taking advantage of Washington's secondary. Houston, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the pass catchers here for Houston, Les?
I like, and I want to pass this off to Keith for DFS, but I like Nico Collins as a sneaky play. I could see him with a low double digit floor in half or even full PPR. I'm not high on Cooks. He got targeted a lot last week, but him and Mills just don't connect either. It seems like Mills is either underthrowing him, overthrowing him. They're not on the same page, but I'll pass that off.
I do like Collins or more this week. I just, a lot of times you look at a game script for DFS purposes where what do you think is going to happen? And I mean, the Texans are just so bad against the run that I think Robinson Jr. at 5,300. If you want to go Gibson for, I think, 500 more at 5,800, that's fine. But Houston in 6 of 9 games this year, the starting running back, a person getting the most carries, has scored 26 points or more on DK. I mean, that's outrageous. Robinson, returning from getting shot, I made the mistake of dropping him after he had the really low touch game. And if you look in the last 2, he's outrushed Gibson 39-26. He's averaging like almost 19 carries a game. And if you get 19 carries versus this Houston run defense, you're going to do very well with it. And then the other thing that I think people are missing, and Joe gave Terry McLaurin as one of his favorite plays, and that was before Stingley was out, is yes, the Texans overall are good against the pass. They've been terrible against number 1 receivers. So I actually think Terry McLaurin also has a great chance to go off in this game. And that's why I do like trying to find more Collins, for a really cheap play in the 3,000 or 4,300 range that could, go off and see a lot of pass attempts. They get down early, they're going to be throwing a ton.
JD McKissick is also on IR. I have Brian Robinson ranked a lot higher than Antonio Gibson just for this matchup because he is just out touching Antonio Gibson. And let's forget, people, you mentioned it yourself, Keith. You dropped Robinson after he had that low productive game. Let's not forget, he dude got shot. Yes, he's cleared to return to play. Yes, he's been playing, but at the same time, maybe he's still getting some of that strength back. Maybe he's still got other levels to take it to.
Wasn't he returning from an injury too? Didn't he shred his leg or something his last year in college?
That I do not know off the top of my head. But we're seeing the Commanders have faith in him, and you see that the strength is starting to return. So, yeah, this is definitely a great matchup here for the running game situation. Nate, I think I covered all the IDPs here. Okay, yep, we did. Okay, fantastic. All right, let's go to the first game then. In the
Jorge, quick
go
question for my IDP guys. What's going on with Cole Holcomb over there? Do I drop him?
It depends what your options are. So who do you have at option for your linebackers?
Well, so I did move him to my IR, but he's been out for a couple weeks, and I'm wondering, is this a long-term thing, or if y'all know, I figured he'd be back, but.
So he was actually he went to practice on Friday, but he did not participate. He did individual drills. Is he droppable? Again, it goes back to the wide receiver question we had earlier. Who do you have starting in his place at linebacker? Maybe that'll be a little bit more.
Let me jump real quick. I mean, I'm at this point I'm going to hold on to him because, like you said, he's at practice. But let me. Who did I pick up? I picked up. Oh, I've been waiting to give Nate this shout out. Never even heard of Sean Taki until I watched your IDP. To your IDPs this week. So I picked up Sean Taki to fill in for Cole.
Yeah, he's been Taki's taken over that kind of that lead linebacker role. I expected I probably imagine Tyler laughing at the idea of Taki being the guy there, but he has been. It's been pretty impressive. Now, here's the thing with Cole Holcomb is you have, 3 weeks left in the regular season. If you're close I wouldn't occupy a roster spot if you need that spot, especially if you're tight in in your standings. But because I don't know if I'd want to start him when he first comes back. It's a foot injury, and don't get me wrong. You kind of need your feet, I would imagine, for a middle linebacker.
Overrated.
Or
hands.
Overrated. It's a hands game.
Speaking of kind of game, I don't know what it's going to be. Let's go to the first 4:00 game here. We got the Raiders going to Denver. Keith just had to dip out, so thank you very much for joining us. Although he did leave a couple nuggets here for DFS purposes. He likes Kendall Hinton at this game for 3,700 as a bargain play. Nate, you mentioned Kendall Hinton with Judy out being an option on Wednesday.
And Hamler, yeah.
And Hamler, yep. So then what is this leave? This leaves Melvin Gordon. Are we feeling comfortable about Melvin Gordon? Tyler, I want you to take this game because I feel like this is going to be a very quick summary of where are we going with this game outside of Adams for Raiders, Moreau.
You're starting Jacobs, you're starting Adams. Yeah. Foster Moreau, is he startable? I haven't seen a lot from him. Yeah, but
Derek Carr looks his way. Again, these are desperate times. Desperate measures have to be.
Yeah. I was with the tight end injuries and all that. That's about the only reason why.
Yeah, you can take a swing on Foster Moreau, but Broncos. Honestly, the less pieces I have, the better. There is some good news. Nathaniel Hackett is handing off play calling duties to Clint Kubiak, so that. Let's ride. Yeah, Broncos country. Let's ride. Anything that removes Nathaniel Hackett's influence from the game a bit more, I'm pro. I'm for that. But yeah, Cortland Sutton, I'll take a shot on a running back. Melvin Gordon, I'll take that shot. But other than that, no, I'm not playing Kendall Hinton. No, thank you. I'm not playing Russ. Russ is out for me. I have a lot of quarterbacks that I'd rather play over Russ, and he's not shown anything this year. So minimal Broncos, and then the Raiders all start their top guys.
Nate, for IDP, let's start with the Raiders. Max Crosby obviously has a good matchup this week. On the flip side, what are your thoughts on Chandler Jones, who's been kind of underperforming for the most part this year?
It's easy to say Chandler Jones has been the worst free agent pickup in the NFL potentially. I don't think there will be people that will argue that. I don't think there will be many in Oakland or Las Vegas or any other fans of the Raiders that will argue that. Now, being said, I am willing to go out on a limb. And on Wednesday, I said that Chandler Jones is going to be my defensive upside play, my sack lunch prediction that he will get a sack because he's going against a left side of Calvin Anderson and Dalton Risner, which is more than advantageous. Here's the best part, Jorge. After doing that on Friday, I guess it was, I believe I saw, and I'm going to butcher this, and I know it wasn't Mike Clay, but it was someone with ESPN. They have a sack prediction model that they do that takes into account the quarterback, the offensive line, the blitz rate, and Chandler Jones was like 9th on that list.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, oh, great. Now I'll never get any credit, and this guy will get all of it. Son of a bitch.
Well, it's a good thing.
I said it Wednesday. Timestamp.
No, exactly. Well, I don't know, folks. If you listen and subscribe to all of our podcasts here, you'll notice if you go to our YouTube channel, which please, if you haven't, please go and subscribe. All of our podcasts now are being broken down into timestamps and chapters, so you can find all of our content by just clicking wherever you want to go listen to or watch. Jayon Brown, linebacker for the Raiders, is he somebody that you could throw in a pinch?
Yeah, in a pinch. I think that, like we said, none of us trust Denver to be able to move the ball, possess a ton of plays. I think it's going to be maybe one of those ugly games. The linebacking core for the Raiders is just garbage. I don't really care too much for Deron Harmon or Trayvon Morig. On the other side, on Denver, I wish I knew what to expect out of the pass rushers. I mean, I don't think that Vegas has the best offensive line. Their tackles are good, but the interior line is just from Draymond Jones. You know, do you start a tackle? Do you start DJ Jones, a nose tackle? No. So at that point, Josie Jewell, Alex Singleton, two good linebackers there. And that's about it, buddy.
That's about it. All right, let's go to Minnesota. Let's talk about Dallas and Minnesota here. Keith also left a note here that people should be paying attention to the CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, Dak Prescott stack on DraftKings. Vikings, 2 receivers in their last 4 games, 41 receptions for 520 yards. So that's definitely something to pay attention to. Are
they number 1 in the NFC, the Vikings?
I don't know NFC. I know that obviously the division. Yes. I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head.
It should be. They've only lost 1 game, right?
Wouldn't surprise me. We talk about Dallas and the running game here. Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott. Zeke is trending towards playing. I think he is going to play, but then a report came out this morning that they're saying, well, he's not going to get a lot of the touches. It's mostly going to be the Tony Pollard show, which is fantastic if you're a Tony Pollard manager. I think the writing's on the wall for Ezekiel Elliott.
You think Dallas cuts him next year?
If they can financially afford to do so, I don't see why they would want to bring him back.
Changing of the guard. It's over.
Yeah.
Dave, do you have it written in that you change your son's name also? Is his name now? Is his name Tony?
Tony.
Sorry. You are now Tony. And sorry.
Love it. The linebacking core here for Minnesota. High tackle volume here. I'm loving Jordan Hicks this week. You look at the pass rushers I'm liking. Zadarius Smith, if I had to pick one between him and Daniil Hunter. On the flip side, you got Parsons, you got DeMarcus Lawrence, who, again, the tackles here for Minnesota are really, really good. And Darisaw and Brian O'Neill. That being the case, we've seen Micah Parsons being moved all over, the line, trying to find the matchups here, which is really the interior. So I could definitely see this interior part of the Minnesota Vikings offensive line kind of getting dominated a little bit here, which kind of helps or doesn't help in capping. It caps Dalvin Cook's upside a little bit. So it's really going to be receivers versus receivers in this matchup. Obviously, you're liking Justin Jefferson. You're liking CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz.
Justin Jefferson, sorry to interrupt there, but let's watch that and see. I got news this morning that he's battling this turf toe issue. And turf toe, if we learn that, that gets inflamed. If a shot doesn't immediately help that, is there a chance that we have to be concerned with Justin Jefferson's playing time today?
I wonder if it's a close game, whether they do that or whether or not if it's kind of they've taken a giant lead if they do fade him. But that's something definitely to be taken into account here. We got Brandon Smith commenting, you never discount how much Jerry Jones loves the guy he drafts. That is for damn sure.
Quote of the day.
Y'all, I want to introduce y'all to Brandon Smith, otherwise known as Mel Sniper Jr. He logged in as his alter ego.
What's up, Brandon?
He's been out sick with COVID, but he's back.
Welcome back, man. Glad to have you on. And yeah, totally agree. They're easing Zeke back in. Easing him in. Okay, for now, sure. We'll see how the season progresses, depending on. I don't know. I wonder how long they're going to be easing him back in, as long as Tony Pollard is playing well. I wonder when that easing back in to now definitely inserting as a high volume runner is going to kick into place once if Pollard starts to decrease in production.
I think they just use Zeke on the goal line. They'll save him in the red zone, and Pollard will take the middle stuff.
Nate, if I was to say start in your defensive back spot, Jaron Curse or Donovan Wilson, would I be a madman for recommending that?
For recommending either or recommending both?
Either.
No, I don't think you'd be a madman for recommending either. I think that any given week you'll see it seems like one pops off and the other doesn't. I hate to say it like that. That's such bland description, but last week we saw Wilson and Curse. The one thing that they do is they alternate, so box snaps for Curse, 31, box snaps for Wilson, 39, free safety snaps for Wilson, 10, free safety snaps for Curse, 8. The biggest difference is Jaron Curse in the slot, and him playing in the slot against this Minnesota team, especially if Justin Jefferson can't go at some point and they ease him out, we may see more Adam Thielen, which would then, for me, that would say maybe that's a Jaron Curse opportunity to see a little inflated tackle floor, which I hadn't really considered up until the news of Justin Jefferson. And again, playing in the box in the slot, anything, as Brandon says, the Vikings game plan should be heavy on Dalvin, and the Cowboys run D has struggled. And I think that will try to lead to more safety tackles, especially if they're scheming Parsons out of the game. So excellent point, Brandon. And that just, it kind of reaffirms my like for Jaron Curse.
I do love how opposing teams, in terms of scheming Parsons out, they don't avoid him. They literally run at him, and they get to that second level and just take him out. It's brilliant, to be honest with you, how they try and take Parsons out. But never, I'm always concerned about their ability to just move him around. And if, like I said, the interior of this Dallas, so it is. No, I didn't say that. So I was talking about the Vikings earlier. Apologies. No, awesome point there, Brandon. Let's go here now to the Steelers and the Bengals. Report came out this morning that Jamar Chase is no longer walking with cane or crutches or something. So, for those managers who held on to him and didn't trade him away because they were scared he may not show up for the fantasy playoffs, you either are happy you did that or you may be kicking yourself in a couple weeks. I'm loving George Pickens this week. I think he's going to play well against this Bengals secondary. No love for Najee Harris, Freiermuth. So for me, I would go Pickens, Johnson, even though Deontay Johnson, he's getting the target volume, but it's not translating into much, in Freiermuth. And then on the flip side, I actually like Tyler Boyd going in the slot this week, as well as obviously T. Higgins. Joe Mixon, man, that's a tough one. The inside linebackers for Pittsburgh have not been what I would call good at stopping the run. And now you got TJ Watt back, and as Watt is, he is great at rushing the passer. He's a good run stopper. On the flip side, when Watt's doing well, Alex Highsmith seems to do well. Mm-hmm. So it's really making me wonder what's going to happen here. The Bengals offensive line is just atrocious. I see this being a very deceptively low game for Cincinnati, with a couple big plays to receivers here and there. I think for people who are playing in PPR leagues or half PPR leagues, you're looking at receptions as your upside to fantasy success here, not necessarily huge chunk plays and huge touchdown numbers. I think it's literally the receptions are going to add up. So you're going to see somebody or a couple somebodies get you 10 points alone, especially in PPR leagues, from having 10 catches, but only for like 30 yards, which is frustrating because that's why I don't like PPR leagues. But that notwithstanding, Les, who are you liking the most in this matchup here with Cincinnati and Pittsburgh?
In terms of,
like, for receivers, or let's talk about Joe Mixon, for example. Joe Mixon, obviously we're not expecting 5 or 6 touchdowns like he had a couple weeks ago. Are you comfortable rolling out Joe Mixon this week?
Short answer, no. For all the reasons you gave, and then I saw a stat. I saw a stat somewhere that bottom line, Joe Mixon doesn't do well against the Steelers historically, anyway. But obviously, he's someone you start, especially after coming off 5 touchdowns. But no, I'm a little disappointed this season in Dave. I wish Dave was online for this. I thought T. Higgins was going to do a lot more this year. I'm going to go ahead and admit that here, week 11, he was my, my fantasy darling. And especially with Chase out, he hasn't really stepped up the way I thought he would with Chase and even without him. So,
Nate, who are you liking on the defensive side of the ball here?
So, because I talked a lot about in our Shake It Off segment on Wednesday night about Trey Hendrickson and how his performance hasn't been to what we would consider our standards. I was listening to Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks, and they were breaking down pass rush productivity from an efficiency metric through next gen stats. And they looked at get off rate. They looked at pressure rate, win rate, kind of all those different metrics that went into it. And Trey Hendrickson was near the top in about every one of them. And so I think that maybe this could be the week against a Pittsburgh offensive line that you and I both know isn't exactly scary in terms of stopping the pass rush, kind of contrary on both sides. So I think that, I think I like Trey to prove us right, prove us wrong, whatever that scenario may look like. Man, the hardest thing for me, go ahead.
Both he and Hubbard have struggled against Pittsburgh, which is really interesting considering how bad this offensive line has been.
I know. And I have a tendency to just give, I want to look at past results, but at the same time, I have to just look at current situation. And I think that this is, if you want to get fired up, you want to talk about get hyped for a game and everything else, this could be it. I haven't been exactly enamored with Logan Wilson so far this season. I think that what we will see is a good Von Bell game. I think Von Bell will stay up, and that ADOT for Kenny Pickett has been so low. Everything should stay between the hash and within the 15. I think Von Bell will be up to efficiency standards for Najee Harris have been gross, and I don't know. I see a Von Bell double-digit tackle game for some reason in my my little crystal ball.
Nice. All right, let's go to the second to last game here. Let's go to the Sunday Night Football matchup. Let's go to Dave and Les for this one. Let's start with Dave this time. You mentioned Kadarius Toney. Feeling really confident about that this week?
No, I do. I mean, Mahomes has just been on fire right now. No Juju. They can't just keep throwing the ball to only Travis Kelce. So I like his chances for getting at least 7-8 targets.
Les,
he did a great job. That touchdown he scored last week was fantastic.
Totally agree. Like I wrote in my piece this week, talking about Isaiah Pacheco, the MVP race surge is on for Mahomes. He's playing lights out. And Nate can speak better than anyone else on this.
I mean, it's been exactly what I think that a lot of people hope for is when you take away a weapon like Tyreek Hill. And I'm trying to remember who it was that was talking to him. There was an analyst and a broadcaster who was telling him, they said, this will be, I think it was Tony Romo. It was Tony Romo talked to Mahomes and he said, this is the best thing that's going to happen to you. And he's like, and I have a hard time telling someone that when you lose Tyreek Hill, that it's going to be good for you. He goes, but it will 100% make you a better quarterback. And it has, and his progressions have shown that. If you saw that play to Kadarius Toney, that first little swing route, he was the fifth option in that play. He wasn't number 1 or 2. That wasn't designed to go to him. That was a fifth option read that Mahomes just knew to go to, and that got on the ball. That's the type of relationship with the receiver that makes Kadarius Toney dangerous. Is that Kadarius Toney in that same play? No offense to any one of your 3 teams, Mac Jones, Davis Mills, Tyler Heineke don't make that read, and they don't look to Pacheco in that situation. They look to force feed.
Hey, good eye there, Mel Sniper. Hey, we're pre-gaming over here, man.
That's what I'm talking about. Look at that. Not only sniping on the picks, but sniping out the drinks, my friend. I don't have liquor in this yet, but give it time. It's coming.
Hey, Fantasy and Frame, sponsored by Jack and Coke. No, just kidding.
How is that? Is that any good?
It's really sweet, but it says 7% on the can, so I'm with it. But
Okay.
All right.
Hey, that's funny.
Look at. Please join us
Uh,
every week, Brandon.
Seriously, we need your presence here. No, speaking, last you brought it up, your buy low, sell high for this week. You were talking about Pacheco, as well as a couple other players here that are just fantastic names here. So if you haven't already, go to fantasyandframes.com. Every single week we have our IDP waiver or our offensive waiver, our IDP starts or offensive start sits, or buy low, sell highs. Our chasing upside articles for offense and IDP. Check it out on our website. Go check out all of our stuff in graphics form over on Instagram. Go, please. We're really trying to build up our YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. All of our podcasts that come out on Wednesday and Thursday immediately get sent there with timestamps, so you can look at things by chapters. Obviously we understand your time is precious, and we try to make our content as digestible and as short as possible so that you can get your information, go dominate your leagues, have some fun with us along the way. So that's why we really have been trying to optimize everything on YouTube. So really head over there and check that out, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it, as well as follow us at all our social media handles at Fantasy and Frames. Really would appreciate that. Sticking with this game, however, let's go back to you, Dave. Offensive side of the ball for the Chargers. We talked a little bit about the uncertainty with Keenan Allen, the uncertainty with Mike Williams. Feels like the only certainty here is Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert.
Is Justin Herbert a certainty though? I mean, I have Herbert in a ton of leagues because I was very high on him. And to your point, Nate, losing Keenan Allen and Mike Williams has really hurt Herbert to the fact that, is he even a QB1 without him? I don't know.
I think on the season, if I'm not mistaken, he's had what, 2 top 12 finishes, 3, something like that. I think is what we've seen. And I'm not saying that he's not capable of having that week, but we haven't seen that big. Yeah, here's his weekly finishes: 5, 9, 21, 9, 18, 24, 8, 18, 24. Jorge, who's your number 2 quarterback to begin the season, correct? Or was he your number 1 leading into the season?
So last season, he was my number 1. He finished number 2. This year, heading into the season, he was my number 1. Right now, he in total points is a quarterback 15. So not exactly looking too good, but I wasn't anticipating him losing his best receiving options after week 1. But whatever, I'll own it. Obviously, this backfired on me.
With a caveat that you're going to go back to last year's numbers. Good Lord. Every time I get something wrong, I'm going to preface it.
Yes,
just continue.
Yes, I will. Going Gerald Everett, tight end. I like that matchup.
Whoa. Real quick. I think Everett's out.
Is he? I thought I said. Okay.
Let me verify that, but I think he's out.
He was definitely trending in a bad direction, I know.
Shit. Okay.
Well, that's okay. Unless you have him.
He's projected 0 on ESPN, and he was not earlier this morning. So something tells me. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, game time decision still is the most active and accurate. I mean,
not worth the risk. Sunday night game.
Exactly. Practicing full on Friday, which is rough. But if you practice on, in full on Friday, and you're still not removed from the game time decision, doesn't that always seem like it leans in the negative manner? Then it never seems like it's like, oh, he's officially active and everybody rejoices. Everybody's like, son of a bitch. Because you have to have a backup. And what's your backup? If you don't have Gerald Everett, well, you sure as hell aren't going to start. You can't have Travis Kelce. You don't have George Kittle. So I guess Trey McBride, if you have Gerald Everett, is that who you pivot to just to make sure that Monday night you have a tight end, which we'll get to Arizona. And I'm not down on Trey McBride. I think that's a decent pivot, but we'll see.
For defense here, Nick Bolton, I'm starting. L'Jarius Sneed, the utility player, has started great this season. Had a couple off weeks, but are we back on board with L'Jarius Sneed this week, Nate?
Yeah, I think he's the utilization has been there. They got away from putting him in the slot a little bit more, and he was more in coverage. And when he's in coverage more, it reduces that ceiling a little bit. I think this week it all depends on Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. If Keenan Allen's in, I think we see Snead heavily in the slot against Keenan Allen. I like that upside. I like the fact that they could blitz against that Chargers offensive line, which isn't exactly the most dominant. I mean, we know that right side. We know boy Trey Pipkins, he sucks.
So they took him out actually last week. They said, "Oh, Pipkins is out of the lineup." I'm like, I know why.
Yeah, we know he sucks.
Cheddarhead here on YouTube. Antonio Gibson, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, or Curtis Samuel. I have to start one in full point PPR. Full point. Give me Deontay. Like I said, he's getting the receptions, he's getting the targets. It's just the touchdowns aren't, and the yardage is not getting there. But if we're going for volume reception here, I like Deontay. Les, what do you think?
Really surprised you went there, Jorge. I'm taking Antonio Gibson against the Houston Texans. Number one, just off the running production itself, but then also Antonio's catching passes, especially with McKissick on IR. Yeah, I'm going Antonio on that one. And maybe I'd probably go maybe I don't know if I'd go Najee second, but definitely Antonio number one. I'll leave it at that.
Dave?
I'm going Oprah. That's the best option. You know, she's absolute must start. Now, I just saw that. I assume he means PPR. I'm going Deontay Johnson if it's full point PPR.
I'm going to take Stedman. He seems to be the sniper that always pilfers off of Oprah. He's the Jamal Williams to your DeAndre Swift, if you will. Now, Les, like I said, I'm right there with you on Antonio Gibson. I don't hate any of the options because I think anyone is, I mean, as far as the flex go, tough. But I got to look at 8 touchdowns allowed on the ground by the Texans over the last 4 weeks. I mean, that just prime. And let's be honest, we know Washington's not going to be in this game. It's going to be a Houston-led game, which means Antonio Gibson's going to get extra. There it is. I don't really care.
If I'm drinking canned JD, you're drinking it neat over there.
You're right up. It is. Woo. No. Yeah. I do like Antonio Gibson though, as far as this particular 4 to choose from.
Thanks for the question, Cheddarhead. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball for the Chargers. Drew Tranquil. Khalil Mack? Nate?
Yeah, I mean, if he's lined up on that left side against Andrew Wiley, that's a good matchup because Andrew Wiley's not been a solid pass protector. Mahomes is good about, getting away from pressure. And thing is, though, is you know what? When you go through progressions like he does, boom, 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 you hold on to the ball a little bit longer at times. And I can see a coverage sack getting to it because Bryce Callahan, who's the corner, the nickel and the slot corner for the Chargers, is extremely underrated in my opinion. And he'll get a lot of Kadarius Toney. He'll try to take away some of that. We know what Travis Kelce's going to do. He's going to have his hands full of Derwin James. Can we see Travis Kelce stiff-arm Derwin James as a retaliation move for the power slam that he saw last time out? Or did we all forget about that move?
Oh, we remember it very, very vividly.
I don't.
It was great shades of Arn Anderson, Spinebuster. All right, let's finish off the week. San Francisco, Arizona. You mentioned Trey McBride. Look, he got targeted once coming in replacement of Zach Ertz, dropped that pass. That was pretty much the only exposure we got, but a lot of hype coming into the season, a lot of hype in terms of dynasty upside. But for me, this is the D-Hop show, whether Hollywood Brown is going to be playing tomorrow night, but this is the Hopkins show, even though this is going to be a very, very tough matchup here. I'm actually fading James Conner in this matchup. The 49ers are giving up the fewest amount of points to running backs on the season. I mean, they basically took Austin Eckler out of last week. So I'm not too high on this Cardinals offense as a whole outside of DeAndre Hopkins. On the flip side, I like Jimmy G this week. I think he actually has a steady floor around 17, 18 points this week. I mean, you look at all the weapons he has. You look at just this. The defense of the Cardinals is suspect. By suspect, I mean not really good. This screams like a 49ers blowout. No, what was that? Somebody's just went into the buzzer with Is that just me or?
No, that's my phone vibrating. It's one of the alerts.
I thought that was like a sound drop. Like, no, incorrect. Dave,
we need that though. We need that for sure.
Well, I have this Stream Deck here that I have with 0 sounds programmed to it, so that's fantastic.
Yeah, good money spent.
Good money spent, but the option is there. Yeah, exactly. Dave, who are you liking for this game a lot?
I actually like Elijah Mitchell, to be honest. I'm a little bit concerned about CMC's usage.
I am right there with you, man. I worry the same thing.
I mean, he's going to get quality touches. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, what would Mitchell have, like 18 carries last week? That's a big chunk to take away. You know, if he had 5 or 10, be a different story. But I'm a touch concerned about CMC.
Les, what are your thoughts on Brandon Ayuk? Just general.
I like Brandon. I'm more concerned about Debo than I am Ayuk now. I wrote, I think, my piece a couple weeks ago to fade Ayuk, thinking that there was just too much to go around. But he is the pass catching option. I mean, you got Kittle a little bit there. So long story short, I like Ayuk. I think Debo is more of the discussion on what do you do with him, like especially before the trade deadline. Do you try to move him off of his name or what?
Would you try to move Debo Samuel off of? Trade deadlines are coming right around the corner for a lot of leagues now.
I know.
So this would be the time.
I think in Yahoo it's already gone. It's already done in the Yahoo leagues. It was last night.
Was it? It was.
Yeah.
I mean that's again disclaimer. Worst part about having 25 different leagues and 13 different formats is trying to keep up with everything is just stupid. But yeah, Debo does. I mean, it worries me that
what are you getting?
Here's a guy that's got 6 targets.
Samuel.
What's that?
I said, what are you going to get for Debo Samuel right now? You're not getting premium price.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe that's at the mercy of your league mates that someone may think the same thing that I'm getting ready to say is he possesses the one thing that is difficult is that super yak efficiency, or at least has had that. And I just wonder, like, look at last week, he had 6 targets and he only had 2 catchable balls. And for a person who has a low ADOT and everything else, that just, I want to know why exactly. But, I think you're probably right. I don't think you'll get enough, and I would rather hold on to him in the case that if he's your wide receiver 3 at this point, that you can get that wide receiver 1 upside. It's hard.
Yeah, Dave, I agree with you, which is why I threw that caveat in there about trading him off of his name. That'd be the only thing like you could, but straight value, I agree with you 100%.
Let's go to defense to round us out here. Greenlaw got kicked out last week over a BS call, I think. But whatever. Fred Warner, Talanoa Hufanga, who always, if he doesn't get you the tackles, he gets you the big plays and the interceptions. So definitely liking him. Nick Bosa, obviously. On the flip side, Budda Baker was supposed to be not playing last week until he was, which was great for those in ranking competitions. Zach Allen, not really somebody I'm looking at this week. Nate, who else for IDP are we thinking about for this matchup?
I mean, Isaiah Simmons has just been what we all hoped he was going to be when he was drafted. He's playing in the slot a lot more. I like that matchup for him because that is Jimmy G's area. I mean, he works a lot in the slot area in between the hash marks. He's not pushing the ball deep too often. And Isaiah Simmons has a speed and it seems like let's be careful. I don't want to be tagged to this. It seems like his play recognition is improving. Now, it couldn't have gotten much worse, which is why he wasn't stepping on the field, because he couldn't cover and he didn't recognize plays. But I'm seeing more of that. Buda Baker, you're always going to play. I mean, we like Jalen Thompson a lot, and I think that's against the San Francisco team. I feel like they're going to have plenty of bodies near the line of scrimmage. And on the 49ers side, Eric Armstead is out. Not that that has any credence to anybody else stepping up and taking his place, contrary to like in the offensive side, where if a player's out immediately, you get more upside. It might negate Joey Bosa a little bit in that they can double him a little more effectively without Eric Armstead. It might move up James Conner just a little bit in terms of the run game. But outside of that, Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, both just decent LB, 2s and 3s. I like Warner more than I like Greenlaw. I believe in this matchup. It's close, but I'll give the edge to Warner. And, Hufanga, I don't know. The shine's wearing off just a little bit potentially. Is that just me, Jorge?
I think what we were expecting or what we had seen from him was steady tackle production. And now that's becoming more and more like, again, like I was saying, like you're either getting some big play or you're getting the tackle volume. So whatever consistency you were getting early on that you were like, yeah, let me start this guy each and every week. I agree. There's starting to be a little bit of that shine coming off. But
I think it's the box snaps personally. Let's take a look at from week 1 on, 30 box snaps to 21 deep snaps, then 16 to 31, then 18 to 49, 23 to 42, 22 to 41. We're getting that trend now. Last week, 12 box snaps to 37. I think they're just playing him deeper and deeper now, taking him away from the play a little bit more.
There you go. And that's going to round out our pregame show. Thank you very much for tuning in on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you very much for all your support over at fantasyandframes.com. You all have been keeping us in terms of our views and our articles on our website very consistent from the summer all the way through. We appreciate all the high volume traffic. We appreciate you reading all of our work. It means the world to us. All the guys here just put in so much work. It is fantastic, and we hope we were helping you win your leagues. And we're gonna carry you to a title. That's just how it's gonna be. So tune into all of our podcasts. This week is going to be a little bit tricky, and I will be announcing this on all our social media handles, what we're doing for articles and shows, just because in the United States we have Thanksgiving, so everybody's going to be traveling with their families, so on and so forth. So I'll keep you all abreast of that, what's going forward with that. You will see a kind of a flurry of articles coming out from us, though, between now and Wednesday. So stay tuned for that, and as well check out all of our social media channels. Subscribe at Fantasy and Frames. So Dave, thank you very much for waking up early and joining us from Connect Go. Les, good luck in your fantasy matchups. That's as far as I'll take it this week. Go Commanders.
Hey, real quick, Jorge.
Yeah.
As much as I love Dave's UFC shirt, how can we get a Fantasy and Frame shirt? That's what I need to know.
You can go to viridianglobal.com and click on Fantasy and Frames, and you can find a lot of our shirts there. If there's something special you want made for Fantasy and Frames in terms of merch, reach out to me at Jorge B. Edwards on Twitter, and I may be able to accommodate you there. So for Nate, good luck tonight with your Chiefs, and I'm Jorge. We'll see you all next week. For those in the States who celebrate, happy Thanksgiving.